Hey, hello everybody, and how are you today? Guess what? Even though it is Friday the 13th, we are recording this show on what? My birthday. So,
Fantastic.
yay, me.
Should we
It's my
sing?
favorite day of the year.
Should we sing?
No, please do not do that. Do not sing. I'm out if you sing. I'll just say that.
No, we don't want to
Anyway.
end the show. We just don't want to end the show right now. But I do want to
No.
wish you happy birthday, Angie.
Thank you
And
so
many
much.
happy returns of the day.
I love my birthday so much. Anyway, okay, so
Happy birthday.
now, oh yeah, oh, by the way, welcome to Does It Resonate With You? And if you like the show, could you please hit the like button and maybe the subscribe button? That would be really fantastic. We would really
The
appreciate
least we could ask.
it, right? So we did get a viewer question today. We're going to address that in a little bit. But first, we want to talk just for a minute because it is Friday the 13th, you know, the day that you're hearing this is Friday the 13th. So what do you know about Friday the 13th? What do you think about it? What is it a lucky day? Is it an unlucky day? I grew up with it being told it was a lucky day. What about you?
Yeah, that's what I was brought up to, you know, more in jest in my circles. We didn't have any hardcore like superstitious people in my family. So it was, you know, watching out for black cats. What else?
Poor black cats and black dogs.
Right. I don't know. I can't remember anything for me that happened really bad on a Friday the 13th. It just, you know, just another one of those days, except exams. Maybe there were exams that didn't go well on Friday the 13th, but exams didn't go well in general. So.
Right. I mean, that's such a collective consciousness thing, right? Friday the 13th, because the truth is, it way back, it was the day of the goddess, and the reason it's gotten a bad name is because the patriarchy, you know, it's propaganda, right? It's
right.
It's a conspiracy, and we all know how I love those. What about you, Val? I mean, I was literally told it was a lucky day. Like
I was never told it was a lucky day, but I really never told it was like a bad day. I think I would be maybe more neutral on that, right? So I would, but you know, I think it was very vague. I'm with you, John. It would be very vague, like you know, it was a little like mystical, right? Or mysterious.
Well, I mean,
I would think about
it. It
that
is the
way.
day of the goddess, right? So I think that if you actually connect to the actual energy of the day, you're in. But wasn't there a horror flick Friday the 13th?
Oh yeah, not just one, a whole series.
Is that the one with Jason?
Yes.
Oh, so and Jason's.
Oh wait, no, I thought. Wait, is Halloween with Jason? I don't remember.
Halloween. Hey, Halloween is Jamie Lee Curtis, right?
Jamie Lee Curtis. I used to watch all of those shows, you know, the horror shows when I was a kid.
I didn't watch any of them. I hated them.
No, Jason Voorhees is Friday the 13th.
Okay.
And Jason Voorhees, Friday the 13th, is from Crystal Lake, which is, we all know, where I live. So there's that. But when I had my tax office, it was on Elm Street.
Oh.
That's too funny. Wow.
I mean, right? So, you know,
you can't make this stuff up.
Crystal Lake, where Jason, my son used to drive around with my older son with one of those hockey masks, the white mask,
right?
You know, like Jason on the front dash of his truck. I never asked why, but now he's got a little Beetlejuice doll instead. So okay.
Oh,
whatever.
I love Beetlejuice.
Me too. Beetlejuice. We said it 3 times. Where is he? Anyway, well, that was fun. I mean, I really enjoy getting up in the face of these things that people have, and you know, these kind of fear-based,
yeah,
things,
right. Kind of tear it apart a little bit.
Like, test me on it. Go ahead, let's
right,
see,
right,
you know?
Right. Bring it on.
Because I just am not afraid of things you can't see, right? I'm just not. Like, I am just not. You want to go to you want to go to a cemetery? I think this is hilarious because I don't
love
actually believe that I do too, but I don't actually think that's where the ghosts are.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I think that's where the bodies are, but I don't believe the ghosts too much are in the cemeteries.
You know what? I don't know. I had an experience when my oldest son, he's in his mid-20s, when he was like about 3. We went to a cemetery. We're in Indiana, where my husband's family lives. It's a James Dean cemetery. He had the museum there. You could go visit his grave. And cemetery was beautiful. Like, they had all the flowers there. And I did not tell him it was a cemetery. And it was beautiful with all these flowers. He gets out of the car and he's so connected and so sensitive. He starts like freaking out and yelling, "There are monsters here."
Wow.
And I'm like, "No, this place, look at all these beautiful flowers." Like, he didn't even know it was a cemetery. And so we're holding him for literally like a minute. Go to James Dean grave, and everybody had like cigarette buzz and like, all these little mementos on his tombstone.
Oh.
And he was freaked out. He was like, "I can't stand it. There are monsters here. Get me out." And then we left and went to the museum, and he was fine. And then, I'm not telling you, for years, and I mean years, every time we'd be in the car and pass by a cemetery, he'd point to one and he'd be like, "I don't like those places, and you made me go to one."
So maybe there are ghosts there. I mean, if you think about it, if you have a connected 3-year-old that can see spirits, right?
Yep.
They're gonna think they're monsters.
Yep, absolutely.
Right? What else would they think?
Right,
so
exactly.
I mean, it doesn't mean that they're monsters, but in a 3-year-old's mind, of course, it's a monster, right?
Exactly, right.
Absolutely.
And he had no clue what it was. I was like, I'm not saying anything to him.
Right,
we're just gonna go there.
You don't
we're
lead him
visiting
on.
No, I'm like, guess we're just gonna go to the place. We're gonna visit James Dean. He was a famous actor, and go to a museum, and this is where his body is buried. Like, it was just very general. I don't even think I said all that. Right?
Yeah, right. Well, I mean,
so ever since then, I was like, But I'm not kidding. Even, I think, finally in his 20s, I think he will go to cemeteries. But he, like, for years, he would be like, "I hate those places."
Wow.
Well, sure. And don't forget that little kids can see things that we can't.
Absolutely.
I know.
You
right?
know, we
So
teach it
sensitive.
out of them. We distract it out of them. Not you, but some people shame it out of them.
Yep.
I'm not saying that's what you did, of course, but
No.
you know,
and even society, you know, teaching kids that they have to learn. You have to get it right. You have to do this. You have to obey the rules. And that basically just squeezes that right out.
It does.
Yeah. And
That's
then
so
there's
true.
that whole other thing that we're not going to talk about. So, you know, the religious thing. Anyway, so now, because, you know, we were actually talking about ghosts, I want to go to the question that we got. I posted on Facebook, what would you like to hear? And so we had one of our listeners said, you know, maybe we could talk a little bit more about mediumship. And she wants to know, wants us to talk about how to set boundaries with deceased loved ones who try to step forward when it's not their turn. Because the rest of it wouldn't fit, I'm going to go read the rest of the comment and then we'll move forward with it. She said, for instance, I had a week of readings when I was practicing, and loved ones would show up when they belonged to a client for the next day or 2 days later, which to me speaks to the idea of the power of intention, right? Like, we know that can happen. But what do you think? Like, what?
So, you know what? I always say, you know, that's how I started. I would just get stuff, and I would talk to my teachers, and I would be like, "Why am I getting this? Why is this happening?" Whether I wanted it or not. And the response is, and it still is true today, you're getting stuff because you can. So whether you're doing this in a professional way, whether you're just doing for practice, whether you're just, you know, open and intuitive just because that's who you are, you can get stuff because you can. So now that doesn't make it your fault, right? And especially for readers, we want to get stuff, right? And this is kind of our, you know, what we do and so forth. So, but it is our responsibility to set intentions and create boundaries around that. And so just like you would create boundaries with human people, human friends, you create boundaries with those on the other side and say, yeah, you know what? My door is closed. You know, I'm not open for business. Close the curtains. I think setting an intention for that, right, is going to, like when you started out with that, Angie, that's exactly what I would have said. Set intention and create a boundary and letting them know you can only come, well, whatever would be comfortable for her, right? So for me, my intention is that I'm willing to see anybody's loved ones that morning, right? So, and because I know I'm going to be doing that work for them, right? Or maybe it's she can make it, I'm only willing to see them when the person is sitting in front of me, right? Over Zoom or in person or over the phone or whatever this is, whatever it may be. So it's very common to get loved ones like the day before, 2 nights before. And that's when you say, close for business. It's not your turn, right?
You know what? One of the
Ready to go.
mediums I studied with said that she always had a candle on her desk, and she said, when the candle's lit, I'm open for business. When the candle's out, I'm not open for business.
Love that. That's her setting that intention,
Yes,
right?
and it was a very visual one, so that she knew, and it just made a lot of sense. I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Love that idea.
Right. And then, of course, you always have to remember. So this is interesting. For one thing, you always have to remember to tell them to go, right? I think sometimes people remember to set when can they come in, but now, okay, we've done the reading. Now it's time for you to leave. And, and it's interesting because, when I do any kind of an Akashic reading for Val, if I do a reading while she's working, in that reading, I always read for, earthbound spirits. And, from time to time, I will get that there's an earthbound spirit present. I don't even really bother to look into it because I know that means I'm catching her at a time when she's reading or open. And if I were to go and check in again later in the evening or whatever, the answer would be no, right? Like, so I think that's really, important. And I think it's really important. What do you think of, this is what I always say when I tell somebody about creating a boundary like this. The most important thing about that boundary is that you have to believe you have the power to do that.
Well, that's true.
You're not a victim.
Right? You have to actually believe it. Like if you say, well, I really don't want you to come. I know that, like in the back of your mind, I know I'm not really in control, but right. Yeah. Like, so there's so many.
Well, then
places.
that's really when they do that. And you're right. People do get caught up in that, right? Like they will like ask them not to come. Right. Now that's not setting an intention. An intention is more like an I am statement, right? This is what you're doing. This is what you believe. And this is a little bit different than asking, right? You're like, you're not coming till the candle's lit. You're not coming until the client's sitting in front of me. You're not coming unless I welcome you to here, right? And so forth. And so I was just teaching about a client the other day, and I did a class, and it was interesting to see how people were getting confused because I always talked about, when you're connecting with your angels and guides, you have to ask instead of intention. And they were like interchanging them, right? And I would be like, you're asking, you're not setting an intention. Then they're two different things here, right? They're close, so they related, but they're two different things.
That's interesting.
Right. Right. I mean, because then to me, the boundary is an intention, right? And asking is like asking for help.
Exactly.
Right. So, but you have the power to tell these earthbounds or really whoever
there.
Although, so I thought about it and I wasn't sure that I was going to tell the story, but I'm going to tell the story, and I love a little input from you as I tell the story, Val, because you're familiar with this situation. So, this happened a while back. Somebody I knew when I was younger, and it was somebody I was involved with. It's not important who or really what the circumstances were. But I found out, through the beauty of social media, as you do, that he had passed. And I had never seen anything about him, on my feed. But all of a sudden, he shows up, and his cousin shows up in my feed. I'm like, wow, I think I'm going to go check and see what the deal is with this guy. And I found out he passed. Shortly after I did that, he showed up. I'm going to go like this because he showed up right here to my left. Like he was right here to my left. He showed up and I said, no, I don't want anything to do with you. You have to go. Wait, no, you don't understand. You must leave. I am telling you, you have to leave. He wouldn't go. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Because I believe in that power, right?
Right,
Like,
right.
I believe in that. And I'm like, you have to go. And he wouldn't go. So it just happened that it was within a couple of days of that I had a Zoom with Val, and I was like, we were getting ready to close up, and I said, I want to ask you, because I have this guy here and he won't go. What's the deal? Why can't I make him leave? So maybe now you can fill in a little bit more of the story of from your perspective and kind of what you got from it, because it's kind of interesting actually.
It was very interesting. So normally when people show up, it's usually because they want to heal something or they want to help you through something. They want to give you a message. There's all kinds of reasons. And so when he showed up, you were like, okay, just tell me what you want me to know. And he was adamant. He literally was like, oh no, I'm not giving the message to you, meaning me. I'm talking to him. He's like, I'm not giving it to you. And I was like, he's not. He's like, no, I want Angie's time because I needed to give Angie the message. Like she needs to communicate with me. And because he knew that you could communicate with him that way, right? He didn't want me being that channel. He didn't want me being that bridge for you. And so it was really personal to you. And I didn't need to be involved with it because you can do it. So he was literally just saying, I needed your time. And I think that was really the reason why he kept like knocking, like poking your energy. But I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you. Right. And so you still could have been in control and said, no, go. But because you did this work, you're like, okay, fine. I'll give you, what did you say? I'll give you 5 minutes.
I originally said 3 and then you talked me into 5.
Okay. That's what it is. 3 to 5, right?
Yeah,
5.
I said 3 and then you talked me into 5.
I was like 5. 3 is not going to be enough. You're going to give him 5.
And it turned out that 5 wasn't enough either. And what's really interesting about the whole thing is that, like I said, this is somebody that I was involved with, and there was no more of the story. You're going to get no more of the story than that. But except to say that it was absolutely correct. I just would not have wanted you to know what he wanted to tell me. And I wouldn't have wanted for the message to come through you, because he showed me something that I had completely forgot about, that I completely buried. Yeah. And so he had, he wanted me to know, just even though things didn't go well, that was not his intention or how he wanted. So in other words, as he's leaving this place, this plane, he wanted me to know that it's okay for me to heal that part of myself. And it was a really, really profound experience. And when I went out to my pool and I sat, I get a lot in the water. Like water is really conductive for me. And I sat and I don't know if anybody would have been, nobody can really see me, but if you could see me just talking, like, okay, what is it? What do you want? And he literally showed me an alternate timeline where things worked out the way they would have been in his mind. And it was so real and so visceral that I was like, there's no way somebody else could have conveyed that for me. There's just no way.
Wow.
So it was. Now, am I fortunate because I do have this connection? And this is not, I'm saying, probably available to everyone, this kind of thing. But the truth is, this is a once in a lifetime situation. I don't think that everybody has a person like this in their life. But what it speaks to is the idea of integrity in a medium. Val was willing to say, oh, okay, not for me to say, right? It's not for me to get this information for you, but I know for a fact that there are other people that would have pushed or would have come up with something to tell me instead of saying, look, you can make this connection for yourself. It is important that you do that because that's how I felt when we went through it. And so for me, the truth and the integrity are the most important thing of all of this. And that's why I'm so blessed, to have friends like you guys. So, and we're going to let that be the end of the little melancholy, whatever this is for right now. But
wow, that's
if
an
you're
amazing
planning,
story, though.
isn't it
I've
something?
never heard that. I've never heard anything like
Yeah,
that.
I wasn't sure if I was going to tell the story, and then I thought it's really,
Powerful.
I'm not giving too much, and it's a powerful, powerful story. And if anybody is listening that's planning to do this work, doing mediumship work or whatever, you need to really remember that it's really important that although you're dealing with spirits and energy in the etheric world, you're also dealing with a human person who has human emotions, human feelings, human foibles, human, what's that word? Shortcomings, and human strengths, but that person you're dealing with is human, and you need to deal with it in that way, because the truth is, as we sit here, we are human first, right?
Yeah.
So it was really something. So I hope that really answers your question, and I hope that we gave you, I don't know, do we have maybe an affirmation we can give her to sort of empower herself, or anyone else who might be listening, this person who asked this, like if she were to sit down, I mean, for me, it's get out, right? You have to go. Like,
I say that too. I'm with you. I just literally be like, you cannot be here, right? Like, you need to go, and you can come back later or not. You know what? I think, Angie, you really have a really nice prayer of intention. So maybe the key for most people, and this is how I start, is even before you start your work, right, is to just set that intention and say that prayer of intention that this is what's going to happen. This is, I'm going to be a clear channel. Like for me, I'm always calling in the light that I'm surrounded and filled with, love and light, right? And I'm always saying that I'm a clear channel, and whatever comes through is for your highest good, and so forth and so on. But I think when you make those statements, she could probably add that, and it's my intention that who's ever meant to come to me, right, that they will come to me at an appropriate time that is good not only for me but for the person that I'm reading at with, right? So for me, my intention was always, you can come that morning, right? You can't hang out
right.
at
All
night. Don't
day.
wake me up. People would wake me up in the middle of the night, and I'd be like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" Right? And then sometimes you get freaked out because you wake up in the middle of the night, startled, and I would see somebody at the side of my bed. I'm like, ah! Right? And so I'd be like, "This isn't going to work for me. I need to sleep like this, right?" And I would be like, get back to me in the morning. And that's actually how it started for me, because they would come, because when you're kind of in that between state, it's easier for
Oh
them
yeah.
to kind of get through. And so they were like, ooh, I got her and I can come through. Right. And so that's how it started. I was like, yeah, this isn't working. I'm like, come when my waking hours, when I'm awake in the morning. And then that's
So
how it
do you
kind
have
of
an
started.
appointment?
Yeah, you have an appointment. Let's call tomorrow or in a week when your loved one's coming.
Right.
I love that.
Book with your receptionist.
And it's literally like you would like with a friend, or someone wants to come over, right? Somebody comes knocking on your door and you're like, this is a bad time. You're going to have to come back later. It's the same thing.
It really is, right?
That's so funny. That is so funny.
So I won't mention any names, but I know most of us seen these things. How do you feel about, and I'm curious, both of you, how do you feel about those when you see those mediums that will walk up to somebody in a store or to a stranger and say, hello, excuse me, I have a message for you. Like, what do you think about that? Just walking up to somebody some like unsuspecting person who is minding their own business and their loved one comes through because of your proximity. Do you walk up to them? Do you not? Do you have, when would you do that? When wouldn't you? I know what I think, but
yeah. I've gotten this. It's interesting. I've actually gotten this question before, because you have such wonderful mediums like the Long Island medium. I think there's Tyler. They're fabulous, right?
Right.
And a lot of that, so they have questioned me about that. Do you do that? I'm like, that's TV, right? That's TV.
Showbiz.
It's showbiz. A lot of it is set up. Like maybe they met somebody, but then they did ask them, right? Are you okay to do this? And then we're gonna whatever, right? So that's TV. In
Yeah.
real life, that is never okay to do that. Ever okay to do that, because you don't know where that person is emotionally and mentally in their journey. You don't even know if it's somebody that they really want to talk to, right? And so forth. It's hard enough to have somebody sitting in front of you wanting to connect to somebody and say maybe they had, I'm just going to say, an alcoholic father, right? And the alcoholic father is trying to come through and they're like, yeah, no, I didn't like him then and I don't want to talk to him now. Right?
Right.
So you have to respect that. And I always say, okay, it's, it's your choice. This is an opportunity for you to maybe heal that or hear what you have to say or say whatever you unfinished business you have to him, right? Or not. But you have to always respect and have the boundaries of your client first and foremost. So I never think it's a good idea to just bring it up on somebody. And I always say, if you want me to say something to somebody, whether I know them or not, then you're going to have that person say something to me. Right. And it's like a catalyst. It'll be like, oh, you know what? I was just thinking about my dad. I'm like, oh, really? Well, that's funny because I just felt him here. Right.
Oh,
so
I
you have a
love
little
that.
bit of a
Yep,
leeway
that's a nice
in.
intro.
Mm-hmm. So I always
I
say, if
love
you want
that.
that to happen, let you get that person to like say something, like be a catalyst where I can just kind of move in a little bit. Now, if it's one of you guys, like, you guys or my
Right.
other spiritual friends,
With friends, it's different.
it's different. I literally would call and been like, hey, but I do have
Oh, you
friends
mean
that
like
are like,
choose
don't tell me
option
anything. I
4?
don't want anything. What? I'm sorry, I missed
You mean
that.
like choose option 4? Remember when I texted you choose option 4?
Oh,
They just kept saying it over and over again. Tell her choose option. I have no idea what it meant. I don't know what the deal was. I don't know what you were doing. And as soon as I texted and hit send, it stopped, and I was like, okay, all right, I'm good now.
yeah, because you could do that with me because I'm open
Right.
to that.
We
So
have an agreement.
we do.
So
So
did that mean
my
anything to
agreement,
you, Val?
yeah, yes.
Choose option 4.
So yes, I think I was working on something and was just like, oh, okay, I'll have to choose this one. So I always have an agreement with all of my guides and angels and so forth. I'm always like, if it's something that I need to know that I'm not getting, use anybody. Give me the information, right? Like that's my boundary, but I'm okay with that because
That's
I do this
cool.
work.
Wow, I love
And
that.
even if it's something hard, I need to do that. I mean, this is my work. It always has to be like self-reflection. You have to go, you always do the work. So I'm always okay with, somebody wants to tell me something, say it to me. So, and they know my boundaries. So
That's hilarious.
Right. Well, and the thing of it is that it's also you have the capacity to take that and say, okay, well, great, thank you, that perfect, I needed that, or no, don't really know what that means, file it away and leave it for later. Where I think that somebody who's not connected like you are might be like, why would you say that? What is that all about? Oh my gosh, is there something going on? What's going to happen? What people can get on that sort of merry-go-round, and I think that's kind of
so true.
Irresponsible, or maybe that or isn't that thing where somebody will a reader will walk up to you and say, I sense that you're troubled about something.
I've never had that happen. Have you guys?
I have. It didn't go well for that person, as you might imagine.
I can imagine.
Yeah, right.
It didn't. Person. I said no, you don't. But the point is, there is that and I think it's important that we empower people a little bit too.
Yeah.
I sense that you're troubled about something. Well, first of all, who isn't, right? And then they can sort of wrench it out of you, and then, well, my gosh, I can't believe that. But you know what? I really sense that you have an ancestral issue that is just repeating over and over and over again. And I'm here to tell you that I can get rid of it for you. All I have to do is take this candle, burn it for 3 days, and then bury it in the backyard under the sand. And that'll cost $4,000, right? Like, but there are people that will
Yes,
go for that, right?
I know.
Okay, so I'm just going to put this out there, and then you guys say what you're going to say. That's baloney. If somebody tells you that, do not give them the $4,000.
No,
Keep your money. They can't
those are the
help
ones
you
that
like
give
this.
mediums a bad name.
Right.
Those are the frauds that get investigated and found out and have, Nightline shows made about them. Seriously.
Yeah, that's so true.
It is
Right?
true. It is true. I did see that on a show. It was what did she call it? The Con. Whoopi Goldberg did a show on ABC called The Con,
Okay.
and that was one of them. And I thought it was kind of appropriate, Oda Mae Brown, doing a narrating a story about charlatan psychics, right?
Sure.
You know what I always say? So I have come with some of my clients years ago. That has happened to them, right? And they'll say to me, well, they knew this about me. And I'll say, you know what? A lot of those people are psychic just to get by just enough to
Right.
hook you,
Yes.
right? They're just enough, right? And then they hook you, and then it's like, give me your money, and then let me do these rituals for you. Like a lot of it is burning the candles, or I'll pray for you for so many days, right? Or buy these roses, or buy this, $500 crystal, right? Which I love crystal, right? But it's literally, I say, well, this is how they hook you. They're psychic just enough to make you get them,
Yep.
right? And then it's downhill. But if somebody,
So that brings a question to me though. In general, we tend to believe that people with those abilities are, have everyone's higher interest in mind, right?
Mhm.
I mean, it's really hard to believe that there are scammy light workers.
yeah,
And I'm like, where is the line there, right?
Ooh.
Are there scammy light workers?
there are.
Are they legitimately light workers if they're scammy, right? Like,
Yeah, well,
I don't. Okay, so maybe no, not we. Maybe light worker and intuitive or psychic are not necessarily the same thing.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Right? Like maybe that's what it is. Because I mean, there are a lot of purported light workers out there that, maybe do see, hear, feel things, but then support things that I don't believe they can possibly actually be light workers because of that. So,
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like,
So that just comes back to boundaries again, right? Setting that intention that you're in charge, you're in control, you get to choose no matter who gives you what, right? Because like you said, Angie, we're all human. I always say this, nobody is ever 100% because we all have filters. And so you need to create boundaries and you're in charge. And just because someone says something to you doesn't mean you need to go take that action if it's not okay for you to do.
Right.
Or you don't have the money to do, or it just feels like, and unfortunately, when people are desperate and so forth, and they just are in such pain, it's easy for them to have not so many intentions or boundaries behind it, right? And then people take advantage of that. But it's still it's still your responsibility to really figure out, okay, let's see if this is going to be okay for me. So this work for me, right? No matter where that source comes from. Mm-hmm. And whether it's your angels or guides, whether it's the person in front of you, sitting in front of you, right? You still have your own boundaries. You still have your own intentions. You still get to choose what's good for you. Nobody should be on a pedestal. No amount of, anything burning the candles may not fix you, right?
Right.
I know.
So I had this belief a while back that your spiritual journey and your psychic ability follow the same path. But it seems like there are some people that are, well, okay, I guess there's both cases. people that have a very strong spiritual practice but have very little intuitive ability, or the people that have a very powerful intuitive ability and a very lacking spiritual journey that they're on.
Okay. I'm going to say that what they lack either way is connection.
Okay. All right.
Right.
But what
Because
kind of connection though?
it is a connection from their physical being to their etheric being, or from their physical
okay.
to their soul. Right. That's what I believe. Because I also believe that everyone's an empath. You know, like if I hear one more person say, "Well, as an empath, I'm," it just makes me crazy.
Some people are more empathic.
Well, but right, because
not
they're more
everybody's so
connected.
empathic. Yeah.
No, but everyone is, because we had to be. Well, if you go backwards in time, everybody had to be a bit empathic, because they needed to know if the person walking towards them was a friend, or if they wanted to run them through with a sword. Right? We all have some kind of ability.
Whether we all have kind of ability.
For some of us it is shamed out of us. For some of us it's religioned out of us. For some of us we just grow away from it. I mean, I have my younger son told me very vivid stories of what he did when he was big.
I love that.
Yeah,
I mean, he was really connected in what he did when he was big, because of the way that he's evolved and the things he believes now. He's very, very far away from. So is it that you don't have the ability, or is it that your beliefs and your human physical condition keeps you from having access to those abilities?
I think you have to practice.
I believe you do. And I believe that the more you practice, right? I spent the first half of my life saying, damn, I should have went with my first instinct. I haven't said that in years.
That's not true.
Because you do now.
Right? I'm going to tell you what, though. It's not so great for watching game shows. I already know who won.
Right.
Or
it's kind of boring.
I already know who did it. I mean, the first 5 minutes, I know who did it. But yeah, I think that's interesting, though, because not everybody wants to walk a spiritual path either. So
no, that's not their path.
Right. What we're saying, though, is that the people that have this very powerful psychic ability and yet are on a dark path, that's harder for me to understand that.
But who is that? I don't know anyone like that.
The scammy mediums who know just enough to hook you and
okay,
take
so
money.
That's not a powerful psychic ability. That's just enough.
Okay.
And that may be more. Okay, I'm going to encourage you to look up, and I would bet it's on YouTube, a segment from Designing Women. You remember the show Designing Women?
I do.
Do you know what I'm talking about? When no. Julia Sugarbaker told, what was her name? The redhead?
I don't remember.
I will find it and I will show it to you. And she showed it through psychology, how she convinced somebody based on reading her body language.
Okay.
Right?
It's true.
That she had a connection to what was going on.
All
so
right.
I mean, I believe that salespeople are pinging your energy all the time. So I do.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
They are, right? Like, but I think true psychic ability, true intuitive nature is of the light. It is of the heart. It is of love. That's what I believe.
Okay.
And I believe that there are no troubled souls, but there are troubled humans. That's what I believe. Take that and $7 and get yourself a cup of coffee. Right? Like, I don't know. I'm going to have to find that and see. Maybe it's on there. I'm pretty sure I looked it up. You'll find it very interesting if I can find it.
Yep, I would love to see that.
Yeah. I'll post it, I'll email it to you or whatever. So, oh my goodness. Alrighty, we're at the end of the We're almost at the end. We're at the end of the road. We have about 5 minutes left. So, okay, what is it? Well, somebody wants to say something.
John?
Yes. Well, I actually let me fill the void here with a question. So, do your guides come and go throughout your life? I know there's one I think that always sticks with you, but I had a Roxanne show up the other day, and I'm just wondering, is that for real or not? The one that I know mostly is Cosmo.
I love that name. Mm-hmm.
He's the spaceman, Bella.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then the other one, I don't know. I guess the question is, how much do they come and go, or are they just prominent for a while and then receding in the back?
Well, I think both Angie and I can both answer this. I just think we do have ones that are permanent, that are always with us from the time we're born.
Mm-hmm.
And probably after, right? And then the other ones just come and go as we need it. So what if you're in a state and you're working on something or some path or purpose and it takes years, and that one's going to be with you for years? Maybe it's just, you're at the grocery store and you have somebody for 1 minute who needs to be with you, right? For whatever it is. So there's no, I'm not so like everything's like has to be absolute, because I don't feel like that when it comes to spirit, right? So I just feel like, if it, whatever you get, trust that, have a bit of faith in that. And maybe this is just a new one. And Angie and I have both gotten newer guides and so forth the last couple of years, right? And then I would literally say, "Oh, I love you. Can you please stay?" Like my Japanese goddess that I got doing Angie's moon meditation. I loved her. I was like, "Can you please stay? Like, I want you to stay in the rest of my life here." Right. And it was like, "Yeah, I'll stay. This is why I'm here." Right. And I'm like, "Oh, right." So you can ask them,
a new friend,
to stay, right? It's a new friend. But I also know at any given time, there can be another one coming in, but people come in and out. I know years ago when I was in college, I like science. I was never a big science person when I was in high school, but in college, I started loving science. But I was like, okay, I need somebody on the other side who's really good at science. Like, you really need to help me, right? Like, this is so fascinating. And like chemistry, when they're talking about energy and stuff, I'm like, this is spiritual too, right? Like, I was really getting into it. And I did. And I had this guy come in, and I think his name was Steve. And Steve would come in and he would help me understand it. He would help me take tests. And I got A's on tests. I was like, thank you, Steve.
Can I just point out that this is one of the most ironic things I've ever heard in my life, using a spiritual guide to help you in science.
Absolutely.
The irony of that is like off the charts.
Well, not so much anymore, I don't think. Honestly.
No, but you talk to any if you ask your chemistry teacher if that's okay, you will not like the answer.
I think that science is starting to embrace this a little bit more than it once did. I mean, look at Hibiscus Moon.
Science.
Hibiscus Moon was a science teacher, and now she teaches crystal healing or whatever she's morphed into now. Right? So,
but there's a real hardcore reductionist, belief in science. Well, then
who I talk to on the other side is none of their damn business.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
I mean, you think I'm cheating with somebody from the other side? Prove it.
You know what?
Prove it.
There's all those stories about Einstein having like angel experiences and mystical experiences.
He was a huge believer and fan. In fact, one of his best friends, I think his best friend's wife was a psychic medium, and they just spent all kinds of time together. Yeah.
I did not know how
could Einstein get what he got without
a connection?
Help?
He had a
connection.
Right.
He had to.
Yep.
Right? Had to. Look at Edgar Casey. I mean,
exactly.
Love Edgar Casey.
Mm-hmm.
But and he's from the 40s.
Yep.
I never got there when I was in Virginia Beach to the Edgar Casey Institute. But yeah, no, I think they definitely come and go, right? Because I've had some that are gone. They don't really go. They just kind of step back. I'm pretty surrounded now. Like I'm pretty sure I have enough.
Got a full house.
Straight. I think 9 is like enough for now. But But I also love Radley Valentine's take on guardian angels, which I think that guardian angels and guides are kind of two different things. I think you can have a guardian angel that's a guide, but the guides that I primarily work with are not the guardian angel. Although when I did his meditation to get the names of my guardian angels, naturally the overachiever that I am, I got 7. So whatever. But I love that he says that at least the primary guardian angel has been with you since your soul origination and is always with you from lifetime
That's
to
so
lifetime
cool.
to
Yeah.
lifetime.
Love
And
that.
I
Yeah.
love that. His belief is that guardian angels are etheric beings and they've
Yeah.
not been human. And I know
I
that
believe
a
that too.
lot of people love to believe that their grandma's their guardian angel, and you know what? That's wonderful. It's semantics, what you call
Right.
them, right?
Exactly.
But that
Potato,
grandma
potato,
is
right?
your guardian, whether you call it a guardian angel or not. When you get to the other side, energy is energy, right? We all fall into the same bucket or fountain, as I love that analogy that he has,
Yeah.
where it's everybody's all in this fountain, and then when the fountain turns on, all the droplets that the fountain puts out, up here, that's us now. And then when we leave this world, we return back to that basin. So we're all there
Cool. That's a
together
great analogy.
anyway, right?
Beautiful.
I love it, Yeah, and
Mhm.
he's amazing anyway, but
Yeah.
he is a favorite of mine. Anyway,
Yeah.
wow, look at that. This is like the end. We've gone, I think, even a little more than we normally do, which is, it's always okay.
Yes, it's been fun.
I mean, it is. It's great, right? It's
Yes.
just like so enjoyable. So
I think
listen,
we do a 2-hour show today or something.
right? To you listeners, this show was really driven, and I even asked Val to come on based on a question from a listener, from somebody who asked us what they wanted to know about what they wanted to hear. She wanted to know about boundaries for the loved ones when she does mediumship work. And I hope we answered that for you. I really do. And if we didn't, please drop another comment. And if you've got more questions, we'll be happy to come back and, talk about it more. Because what's more fun than this? Nothing.
I know. There is nothing more interesting than this conversation.
You just never know. You never know what's going to come out or what's going to happen. So in the end, anyway, Valerie Wood, and you are Valerie-Wood.com. Is that right? Valerie-Wood.com. Check her out. Maybe you'd like a reading, or maybe you'd like to visit with Archangel Michael a little bit, who is hilarious, by the way. Which I always find very funny, because I don't care who is channeling Archangel Michael, he always comes through the same way, right?
Right. He's a joker.
He's a joker, always, no matter who it is. The one time I was in a Radley Valentine thing, and he said, well, Archangel Michael's here and he's doing housekeeping. I was like, okay. But it was true, but he kind of is that, housekeeping, cut the cords, like clear the decks. So anyway, look at this. We could go into another conversation altogether.
That's another one.
I know, right? It would
Yeah.
be fun to talk about the archangels and these people that we channel.
I'd love to hear that.
That would be a very fun conversation.
Yes.
So we'll have to come back and do that again. Val, you'll come back,
Please
won't you?
do.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me today. It was fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wanted to see you.
So thank you so much for listening this far, if you did. And if you did, please hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed, please do that too. We'd love to.
We know where you live. So.
John, I told you can't be threatening the listeners. All right, everyone. Thank you so very much. Have a marvelous Friday the 13th for yourself. And we will talk to you next week. Oh, next week we're going to have Katie Flynn, right? Katie Flynn.
Yes. Oh, she's amazing.
Katie
She channels the druids.
She channels the druids. She's going to be on the show next week. So come back for that. I think that you'll enjoy that. We had a great time when I was a guest on her show. That's not been released yet, but when it is, I will let you know. Anyway, thank you so much. Have a marvelous, a marvelous everything, and we'll talk to you next week.